Tremaine, it's been a year, and it's been immeasurable shootings since. And some of them are, I mean, I can't even say this. Some of them are just mass shootings, and some of them are motivated by hatred and extremism. And it's very easy to forget what happened a year ago. If I said to somebody what happened a year ago in America, I'm not sure they'd even remember that there was this mass shooting of people because of the color of their skin in Buffalo. But that's not so easy to do if you're in Buffalo and you're black.
Not at all, Ali. You imagine the cities that have had to deal with this, and once the cameras go and once the politicians leave, they're left to hold the enormous weight of the trauma and really the bloodshed, right? And so even though there is no manual, there is no roadmap, one thing that I find amazing, it speaks to the resilience of people, is that even when those promises have faded and the lights and cameras are gone, these communities are trying to stand up in their own and help their own communities, right? Like the best balm for these communities is often the community itself. You mentioned the woman I spoke with named Trinetta Austin. Before the tragedy, she was focused on children and immunization and vaccinations. But after this, she's tending to those wounds that are harder to spot. And they actually found time to form a sisterhood with some of the folks and brotherhood with some of the folks at the top supermarket, give them a shoulder to laugh on and cry on. And there is laughter coming back through this bond. And so through this immense tragedy, we think about 10 lives. If you have 2 people killed in any incident, that is horrific. 10. And so many of the folks that are still dealing with the memories, many of those folks have actually gone back to that supermarket to work, even though it's been remodeled, even though it's been refurbished. The pain is seeped into that floor.
What is, Tremaine, sadly, I go to almost all of these shootings, and many of them are places that were not famous for anything. They're now famous for being a place where there was a mass shooting. And you're right. Once, in the days following a shooting, there's nothing but media all over the place. And then they leave. And it is empty and hollow. And there will guaranteed be another shooting soon after to steal those headlines. What did the people you talked to want the rest of us to know about this?
That they're still standing. And I think the one thing that was kind of sad to hear, but also very human, is that we remember the names and the faces of those 10 people who lost their lives, whose lives were stolen from their communities and their families and their loved ones. But we don't talk much about those who survived, right? Either survived actually getting shot or those who survived and had to witness these horrific events. They wanted folks to know that they are still there, but they also need help. And it's not in terms of like donations, but they need love. They need legislation. They need prayers. But as you mentioned earlier, what happens when someone targets you because you're black? What happens when they target your community because it is a majority black community? And racism and white supremacy created the borders and boundaries around some of these communities anyway, especially East Buffalo where this shooting happened. And then they were targeted because they're black. So they're left to carry all that. And so even though they're standing up, even though they're doing what they can to help each other, and they are laughing more than they had a year ago, they want folks to know that they're still suffering.
Tremaine, do people make a distinction there about what of this was racism and what of it was our out-of-control gun situation in this country? It's both, but how do they think about
it? In this case, it's almost entirely about being targeted because they were black. Because another thing that emerged that I heard time and again, and it's a sad state of affairs, is that folks were used to hearing some gunshots in this community, but these shots sounded differently, right? And the motivation was much different. This is an urban community with many of the issues that many other urban communities all across this country face, including everyday gun violence. And so it wasn't necessarily just the insanity of how many people are shot and killed and how many illegal weapons are flooding communities like East Buffalo. It's the fact that this young white supremacist targeted them, planned to come there, came there the day before, scouted out. Some of the folks who were there that day of the shooting were there the prior day when he came and talked to some folks and did some reconnaissance at the store. And so for these folks, it's certainly the impact of the bloodshed itself. But, first on that list is that they were targeted because they were black.